All right, I am here with my friend Will Klier, and he is, I'm going to go with director of Chi Alpha at UC Davis, but I'm going to let you fill in the gaps there. But Will, so good to have you on the Next Explorers podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. It's good to be here.
Now, just so everybody knows, just confession here, we have already spoken once before, and we had this great, I was at UC Davis, maybe, I don't know, a few months ago, and we had this awesome outdoor service, and but we recorded the podcast that day, and you were saying, because you were looking at the way we were recording, you're like, hey man, are you sure this is going to work? And I was like, dude, come on, man. I'm the professional here. Like, of course it's going to work.
Right.
And sure enough, when I got home, my audio was all messed up, but I just I couldn't surrender. We had such a good conversation. So I'm really glad that you agreed to come back on. And
hey, take two. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
That's good to hang out with you too. So,
one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast, Will, is because I've been around you and I've seen you bring people from your ministry to some of the places I was, and they're always just stellar people. I forget the young man's name that used to bring to those sectional meetings. What was his name?
Oh, that's Preston.
Yeah, Preston, that's right. Mm-hmm. Preston, if you're listening, you're a boss, dude. And so
he is, for sure.
I think we're living in a world, where people kind of make up their mind about young adults and college students, and this is who they are and this is who they aren't. And it's hard to, if you don't have a college student of your own, like if you're a parent or you're not a college student yourself, I mean, finding out what's going on in a college student's life might be difficult. And then I think especially the question of what's going on in the believing community of college students. Like, is there a thing? Are they,
do they exist?
Do they exist? And so perhaps people have heard of Chi Alpha, which is the ministry you're a part of, and perhaps they haven't. I think before we get to that, I want you to talk about that, but can you just give us a little intro to you, your wife, your family, and who you guys are and where you're at?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, I have a wife of going on 16 years, Jennifer, and she is amazing. She works alongside me. Actually, I work alongside her, as I feel. We have a fun story as far as how we came together, both through serving in Chi Alpha as missionaries. That's how we met. I actually knew her before I started serving. I was still a student. That sounds controversial, but it wasn't.
Oh boy.
Just a few years behind her, but I caught up to her. And then we have 3 children. Yeah, Joy, Mercy, and Liam. And my oldest, Joy, she's in high school, 14. So in 4 years, she'll be a college student, which is crazy to think about. And then Mercy's 12 and Liam is 10. And they are a blast. I love it. We just had so much fun together.
That's so great. So what year did you go? Because you were a student at UC Davis. What year brought you to UC Davis?
Oh, wow. That was the last millennium.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry to ask you this.
Yeah, it's all right. I actually came to UC Davis as a freshman in 1998.
Wow.
I grew up in the Bay Area in the East Bay in Concord.
Cool.
Was involved with a fabulous church out there and thriving youth ministry, and came to UC Davis ready to, I didn't even know campus ministry existed.
Right.
And ready to jump in.
Right.
Down Alpha.
That's so awesome. And so when you went to UC Davis, was it, hey, I'm a Christian, and so I need to get a part of a Christian community? Was it something that happened on campus? Like, how'd you find Chi Alpha?
Yeah. By the way, do you hear a beeping? Okay, we're good. It stopped. Downstairs, my daughter's cooking some toast, and I think the smoke detector went off.
It's all good.
I'm like, no. We both had to make a big announcement to our families that we were recording, and to
Right. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, life into the pandemic, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I just really had a thriving experience in youth ministry, and figured, campus life, there's got to be something. Wasn't sure, but the first night I was there on campus as a freshman, I got this welcome packet. It was paper, believe it or not, back in the day.
Well, yeah, I'm not familiar. We're not familiar with what that is.
It was papyrus there, listing all the different events that the campus clubs were doing. Just give you perspective, now at UC Davis with 40,000 students, there's over 700 clubs and organizations.
Wow.
So that back then was a lot less, but there's still a list of several campus ministries. And I got so excited because I actually had a heart for ministry even going to college.
Mm,
Most of my friends went to Bible college, and I'm all for that. I just had a tug on my heart, not knowing why, to go to the secular university.
mm.
And obviously, God had a plan. Because day one, after visiting a few of the different groups, I found Chi Alpha. And just to pause on that for a minute, Chi Alpha is kind of it's a confusing name.
Sure. Yeah.
It's
Tell us what.
Greek. It sounds like a fraternity or sorority,
Uh-huh.
and but it was purposely named that back in, gosh, I think it was like 1953. But Chi Alpha stands for Christ ambassadors, taken from 2 Corinthians 5:20. Just I'll read you the verse. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God.
That's cool.
And yes, so that's the mission of Chi Alpha on the college campus, is to be his ambassadors and to implore these students to be reconciled to God. And anyway, so that first night I found a community in Chi Alpha,
Wow.
and yeah, and fast forward, I graduated, and I decided to give a year and pray about a lifetime. And
Totally.
that year after I graduated was just amazing, just serving alongside now my wife Jennifer. She was on the staff team there. She actually had taken the reins to start directing the ministry that
Cool.
year. She got passed on to her. So I was with a team of people, and it was during that year that I just felt the stirring of my heart for Jennifer, of course, but also with my call to campus missions.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
now that's been, yeah, it's been amazing. That was 2002, and been serving since. And we go by Davis Christian Fellowship, a Chi Alpha ministry, just to help
DCF.
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 Yeah. And so Chi Alpha is still in like the full name, but our street name is, DCF. And yeah.
Sweet. So now, I heard of Kyle phone when I was younger, not sure really what they did. And
Uh-huh.
let me just represent everybody who still doesn't really know what Chi Alpha does. So, you wake up in the morning on a Monday, you're Chi Alpha director. You have a staff, I think of what, 4 people,
Yep. That's right.
and
Hmm.
they fundraise to be on your staff or,
Yep.
yep. And so what do you and your team do at UC Davis as Chi Alpha?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's
So
just one simple thing. Yeah, I'm sure.
yep. No, and in a pandemic too, like everything
Right.
that's happened these past several months. But yeah, so we all are U.S. missionaries. That's kind of how we are able to be there with churches and individuals that support
Cool.
our work. But the base, the bread and butter, everything about Chi Alpha is discipleship,
Mm,
and raising up disciples, making disciples. So we spend a lot of our time as a staff pouring into our student leaders. This year, I'm going to get the number right, 26 student leaders. And
wow.
so as a staff, we divide that up, men with men, women with women, and we're pouring our lives into them,
Mm,
meeting up with them, walking through the highs and lows of college life. And in turn, those leaders, they're all leading small group Bible studies. And our hope is that they're doing the same for those in their small group as a peer mentor.
yeah.
And so that's a big part of what we do. We do worship services, like you came and
Yeah.
spoke there on
Nice.
our outdoor service. Uh, yeah, so it's every week we have. It's interesting. Right now we do our outdoor service and our Zoom service because some students are not in town. The
Right.
university reports probably about half of that 40,000 are still in Davis, but they're not on campus right now. So they're just
Crazy.
taking classes from their homes. But yeah, but we're trying to serve students best we can in this time. And but it's a powerful time of worship coming together, and especially even now, just the the fact that we have these properties, which I'd love to share about,
Yeah.
that enable us to be able to still gather safely outside, and of course, weather permitting now in the winter.
Right.
But it's working, and students are coming to Christ, and they're getting plugged into community.
That's so great.
Um,
For
yeah.
those who haven't been there, I mean, I want you to talk a little bit about your facility. You just said you were, but when I was there a couple months ago, I mean, this DCF building, and there's 2 buildings, really, two houses. It is like right smack dab in like probably the coolest spot you could be in on campus. Um, we were, when we were there, my wife and I was speaking. I mean, this place has this awesome front yard and everybody's kind of spread out and there's these heaters, and then you just have people walking by the whole night. Right. And then a couple of those guys, as I was speaking, they just stopped and
Stop, they
listened,
came
came
in.
back,
Yeah.
and you were sharing with them. Tell us a little bit about your property and and what I'm sure is miracle story after miracle story, but if you can share a little bit about it.
Yeah. I remember that night too. That was an international student that ended up getting connected with us.
So great.
That was just incredible. Yeah. It's a big story. I don't know how much detail you want, Jordan, but the, I'll just give you the overall purpose of the facilities. Normally, we have the community center where students, not in a pandemic, could come and it's a home away from home.
Right.
They study there. We have a kitchen. They would make lunches, and we'd have our Bible studies there. The university only allows us to use one room rental a week as a student club. That's how we would do our worship services. I don't know when that's coming back. I don't think, probably maybe 2022. I don't know.
Yeah.
The conversations I'm having with administration, they're saying instruction should begin in the fall, but I don't know about clubs and programs for in person yet. But we have hope. So we're grateful for these buildings so we can still do events. But yeah, and we have a prayer room there. We usually have a resident in that as well. And then we expanded, gosh, going on 5 years ago now. And our direct next door neighbor, after watching us for, I think it was 17 years up to that point, he just believed in what we were doing, and he decided to work with us on purchasing his property, because those properties are it's like beachfront property. It's right by the campus.
Yeah.
They actually call that part of downtown campus the Gateway, and we're like the two closest houses to the campus in the center there, the Gateway.
So awesome.
Yeah, and so we we did it. We got the second property and started a residential discipleship community with 8 residents. And then we merged the property space, and now we had no idea that in 2020 it'd be the only place we could gather for worship in that outreach space.
So how long has DCF been a part of those properties? Since you've been there?
So actually the spring of my freshman year, it's a pretty cool story. The previous campus ministry director, obviously the one who hired Jennifer, my wife, he had vision for a community center. He was a part of a Chi Alpha group in Washington State that had Chi Alpha House, and this is a miraculous story of God's goodness and provision. There was a couple that wanted to help him move closer to campus. He was far away, and they were willing to make a generous gift toward a down payment on a home. And he said, I have something, even a bigger vision than just for myself. And he casted the vision for the ministry center. And so they got behind it and loaned him their life savings to be able to purchase this shack built in 1906 that looked like the big bad wolf could blow down.
Crazy.
And I got to watch my whole college experience, the miraculous provision of God and the generosity of people, as that whole shack was transformed into a beautiful community center. That's cool. Then fully paid off too by the time I graduated. Wow. A fun story. I can tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
On the properties. So back in the 1980s, there was a women's prayer group in Woodland here in Yolo County that felt a prophetic word that God would use this women's group to launch a campus ministry at UC Davis that would touch California, the nation, and the world. Cool. And powerful word. And they had no idea. They were a group of elderly women, and they just believed God and prayed into it. Fast forward a couple years, in 91, there was this couple, Mike and Patty Eppert, 30 years ago, that were part of a Chi Alpha group in Washington, the same one that Henry was. Okay. And they had a vision to start a campus ministry in California, in Davis. And they came to that church, and the women's ministry group heard about it. The pastor at the time said, "Hey, we really can't support anything right now financially, or but yeah, we'll be praying for you. And this women's group was like, no, this could be the answer to part of the prophetic word. And they did this really cool thing that they'd never done before. They had the missionary share at the church, and not even telling what the budget was. The church, they just took an offering and said, hey, if you guys want to make a monthly commitment to them, and to the penny, what the couple needed, they needed to launch Chi
That's awesome.
Alpha.
That's
And then the fast forward how it connects to the properties, right when that first property is being paid off, the same group of women were like Henry, the previous director, Mike and Patty, and Henry started the ministry. Mike and Patty left. Henry casted vision to all these churches and people like to raise funds for this house. And this women's group had a goal of raising $1,000 to give toward the property.
wow.
And it was like the last day that Henry was like committed to paying off the property. He was transitioning and handing over the ministry to Jennifer and literally moving. And it was like 800 something that he had left to raise, and he could probably like put it on a credit card or something,
Yeah.
but he was believing God for it. And one of those women came that afternoon to the church where he was just exhausted, called everybody he could think of. And she came in like with like one of those old velvet offering bags, what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's like, we've been collecting money for months. We were trying to get to the $1,000. We just couldn't do it. But look, here's what we got. And it was like a bunch of checks and cash and coin. And it was to the penny of what was needed to pay off the
That's
property. Like it was
unreal.
so miraculous.
That's so cool.
So anyway, hearing all those stories and seeing God do that, like gave us courage to step out for that second property.
Yeah.
And we've been working on that for the last 5 years of seeing God provide and for the remodel and the expansion of the outreach space. So
Yeah. Well, at the end of this,
yeah,
we'll make sure we put in the notes ways to stay connected and ways that people can financially support that.
awesome. Thank you.
And so, let's get to it, because now, okay, well, you have a facility,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're about making disciples, but you're at UC Davis. This isn't a
Yeah.
Christian establishment. This is a secular university with a lot of amazing and brilliant people that come in through this campus. So I guess the first question, which kind of stems into the others, is what you have a unique perspective. You have a lot of years. You were a student. Now you're a director of this ministry. You have a team of college age students, both student leaders, and then some of your staff have graduated. So in your opinion, what would you say the spiritual temperature is like at a place like UC Davis? And I use that word spiritual on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's spirituality outside of the Christian faith. So what is the spiritual temperature like? What is the overall atmosphere of spirituality at UC Davis from your perspective?
Yeah. Davis it's a special place, right? I mean, it's the
Yeah.
the top 5th public university in the nation.
Wow.
There's a lot of prestige. These students have worked hard to get there. They're bright. Yeah. And, many do come with a faith background, and they're owning that for the first time. And fortunately, we get to see a lot of that and help people cross that bridge of really taking ownership of their faith. But so many don't, right? Just like the world we live in.
Right.
And there's a lot of opposition even to, Christianity. And there is some walls that we have to kind of knock down to be able to reach people's hearts and connect with them. But I've had a real positive experience in my days though with the university, and I've seen just God's favor on this place. And I even see like there's great campus ministries besides DCF Chi Alpha that we come alongside and we partner together. So there's a little spirit of unity with the Christian community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's been highs and lows too. There's some moments there, like I remember even as a student where there was some hostility. There was like there was always controversy and stuff going on the college campus, right?
Okay.
But like overall though, I'd see there's an openness. I mean, the students are hungry for community. That's that, and even now more than ever, right? They're feeling a sense of belonging, and that's what our Christian faith does best. Is
Right.
I mean, the Father, Spirit, Son has invited us into their relationship, through what Jesus has done for us,
Yeah.
and that we could be a reflection of that as a community, invite people into the Father's love, and they can experience the freedom that comes through Christ. It's yeah, there's so many lives that have been transformed.
Mm.
But you have to build bridges, and we, I'm not out there like trying to like win arguments. That's just not my gifting for one. But I try to do my best to just love people where they're at,
Sure.
and let Holy Spirit do the work and speak truth.
Yeah.
And I mean, Preston's a great story, that what the Lord did in his life. Coming out to one of our welcome events where we on the properties, we're doing barbecues and things just to meet students and
Yeah.
bring them in. And we're excited to be able to do that again soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
But Preston came with his twin brother, and they just really enjoyed their time and got
And
invited to one.
were they believers at this point?
Oh, no, they were complete atheists.
Okay.
Yeah, Preston said he had a Bible growing up, never read it, but he just didn't believe in God.
Right.
But he came out because of a friend invited him, and he felt connection, came to Bible study that very first week of his freshman year,
Mm.
and kept coming for 6 months. And he went to our worship services, came to our retreats. He came out to a prayer meeting, and he says that's the moment where he sensed the presence of God for the first time for his own life.
So great.
And he said yes to Jesus.
Wow.
And then his twin brother said yes to the Lord. And
I didn't know you had a twin. I don't think you said that last time. Identical twin.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's awesome.
And their girlfriends came to the Lord, their best friend. It was just this revival that broke out. And the way it works in campus ministry, we throw them in the leadership right away. That next year, his sophomore year, he was leading a Bible study, and there was I believe at one point it was 25 guys in a dorm meeting together.
That's the best.
And and Preston actually during his time with us felt a call to ministry, and he was a tremendous student as a biomedical engineer, which is a mouthful.
Jeez.
and complicated degree. But he's actually put that to the side, and not using it directly in pursuing ministry. So he served with us for 2 years as a missionary, and now he's in seminary over in Fuller.
So great.
Yeah.
Love that.
And this spring, Lord willing, maybe summer, they're still finding their date, but Jennifer and I will be officiating he and his fiance's wedding.
All right. Well, Justin, this is for you, bro. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I remember we were there that night, and I was preaching, or maybe you're forget the young man who led worship that night. His name,
Peter.
Peter. Yeah, he did a great job. But I think as he was doing that, someone walked by and they're like, "Yeah, the Christians," and it just fit like the perfect.
Yeah.
That's what happens at college thing to Christian people.
Yeah.
Would you say that DCF, has a good name on campus amongst people, or do you think it's, what's it like for you guys?
Well, I know we did. I hope we still do. We're like the only campus ministry meeting in person, and I know some people might frown on that, but we feel we're doing it safely, and students are wearing masks, and we take temp checks and do all that. But yeah, no, I think with the longevity, we've been able to build trust and relationship.
Yeah.
I have a monthly meeting with the administration that all the campus clergy, as well as, they're not official, connected to the campus, but that are serving the campus.
Right.
And I think this is unique to UC Davis as well, that there is a respect for what we do to serve students. And so they bring us into these monthly conversations.
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people, Davis, the definition of the name is son of David. The city itself, come on, it's a name for Jesus. So,
I love that. That's cool.
I'm probably, I'm a half full glass guy, So
no, that's not true. Well, you're like 3/4 of the glass. Well, if I ever run into you and you don't look happy, I'm going to be so concerned of whatever's going on, because you're like a very joyful person, and it always brings me joy to be around.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm a human. I have my low days too, but But yeah, it's really cool though. Well, I believe it's a special place. The motto is "Let there be light." That is the motto on every diploma. So
So
Davis
great.
is a special place, and yeah, all the things you hear too are the crazy things.
Sure.
I think one year the university had, I think it's still there, the morning after pill and vending machines on campus. I was like,
Man.
this killed me, man.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart. But
Right.
so there is an agenda on the campus, as we see now in our greater culture
Right.
too. And I feel like things that I'm seeing in our culture, I was seeing like maybe 15 years ago on campus. So
Sure. Well,
there
that's
is,
kind of
yeah,
the importance of college ministry and making an impact in these young people's lives, is because in 10 to 15 years, they are going to be the main influencers in culture. Not that they don't have a place in their 20s, but I mean, these people will go from Davis
yeah,
into their 30s, into their 40s, and be the people who are making decision over a lot of economical decisions, cultural decisions. I mean, political decisions. It's them. And I just think it's important to at least say that, that we can abandon these places, even, and I don't know how you feel about this, but everybody and their dad seems to be getting out of California, like,
yeah,
oh boy, you know, but there's a work to be done here.
yeah,
There's a work to be done. You brought up something, a couple things that I want to talk about. One was discipleship, but I'll wait on that. But what was it like for you and Jennifer navigating this last year? Let's
mm.
let's let's pause on pandemic, because obviously that's just annoying and the worst, as far as not being able to meet and all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of cultural issues,
Mm.
not that they're
Mm.
done in 2021 or that conversation is closed, but with racism and politics, and I think, and I'm wondering if you found this in your group, that although there's a group of believers, a lot of those groups of believers were kind of split in the way that they saw some of those things. I don't know if there's a way you can share about like what happened in the DCF team and culture, and how did you guys walk through that? What was it like even on campus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great question to ask. It first thing I just say is humbling. It is a humbling time. Just
Yeah.
you it's yeah, we yeah, we haven't always hit it out the park like the way we've served, our Black community, and that, like, not maybe talking about things as clearly and openly. And so we definitely saw a place of growth,
Mm.
with everything that happened with George Floyd. That was right around the end of the term last year, and so it's like finals week, and um, yeah, and just our last worship service of the academic year before we do our summer worship services, and um, mission trips, stuff we do in the summer. But yeah, and so we just found the value of listening, just to listen. We sat with our students of color, and just heard their hearts, heard the places where we actually had hurt them by not talking about certain things. It
Mm.
it just became it was the whole thing. Everything happening in our culture became an opportunity to talk, like the things that
Yeah.
maybe that never felt free to talk about. um and like, even like, I mean, something I never would have thought about. We do spring, I mentioned we do summer mission trip, we do spring break mission trips. We're trying to figure that out too right now, but it looks like we'll still be able to work with City Impact there in San Francisco and the
Yeah.
Tenderloin. And one of our Black students was saying that it was tough, like being in that environment and seeing a lot of the homeless were Black, and that to process that. And
Wow.
that was just, I didn't even think about that,
Yeah.
like
No.
with it. And so this has been an eye-opening time for us, to how we can love better and really, um, yeah, just be who we want to be to serve students.
Yeah.
And the college season is a time of healing too, I find. We do a lot of, just counseling as best we can. I'm
Yeah.
not a trained counselor, but even just working through areas of hurt in their lives, or wounding as a kid that comes up in our discipleship. And so this is just like another area. Like, I want to be better at helping serve students and see the Lord's healing come, and that we can be a healing agent for our culture. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, yeah.
I've been just processing a lot as there's been a lot going on in our nation, and there's a lot going on in our world, just because our nation kind of has, like some flares, I'll say. There's been fires burning in other countries, and I've just been asking the Lord, where do we go? What do we do from here?
Mhm.
And you hit on it. What I felt like the Lord has been speaking to me recently is just, no, just do what I ask you to do. I ask you to make disciples. And, you know, I think I want you to share on this. And we didn't talk about this last time
Mhm.
because I mean, I felt like this has just come to such a center point in my life and in my thoughts and my prayer recently, because,
Mhm.
um, there's a lot of people, we're rallying for things like we want to keep our churches open and all the things. But at the same time, I wonder if there needs to be a refocus in 2021 and beyond of making disciples, like putting yourself in a situation where Preston story happens, and so I've just been real focused in on that word discipleship. So as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, so can you speak to, I know I didn't prepare you for this question, but when you say that, when you say we're all about discipleship,
Mhm.
what do what does will mean, and what does that mean for DCF? And then how can we glean from that just as people? Because I've really just been thinking about that, and I think it takes a disciple to make a disciple, right? Like it
Yeah.
takes a disciple to make a disciple. That's just logic.
Yeah.
So, um, can you share and expand a little bit? And because I think discipleship is so important, and you guys are just doing it, and you said this is the main thing. So, what do you mean
Mhm.
by that? And how do you flesh that out at DCF?
Yeah. Well, we are doing our best to follow Jesus' example with the disciples. The fact that he spent 3.5 years camping with the 12
Yeah,
there,
I was just
and
telling somebody, you just took that out of my mouth. That's beautiful.
so we have a typical college season is about 4 years, right?
Yeah,
So we do our best to just live life with these students, to invite them in, to our personally to our home, and to share, my ups and downs, my highs and lows, and how I turn to Jesus, and take them to the Word and pray with them. We're opening up our lives to these students the way we saw Jesus did that with his disciples.
yeah,
And really, like, we feel like that's the master's plan of evangelism. It's the
yeah.
title of the book as well, by Robert E. Coleman, if you want to look that up.
Nice.
It's kind of a small little read, but it just kind of unpacks the theme of discipleship as evangelism. And I'm all for the big events, and the things to reach the crowds, and those are often catalytic moments, and we do them too. We do the burger events, we do our worship services, but that, like I said at the start of the conversation, and this has been a reminder too, just of the value of what we aim for, in making disciples, is orchestrating our calendar around setting up one-on-one meetings with students. And
Yeah,
sometimes they're an hour, sometimes they're longer,
yeah,
but we're just, again, making intentional space in our lives to pour out, uh, and then encouraging them to do the same.
yeah. It's so good.
That's
And I
discipleship.
I want you to be honest, and I want you to tell us what's not cool about that. Because, and here's what I mean. It's I would say sometimes it's easier to put on a big event.
Mhm.
It's easier to make a cool event. You guys are so creative. I think the last time you had the mug event going on, what is it? Something in a mug?
Yeah, good job, man. Yeah, we
Yes.
did it virtually this year, but we've done it for the last, gosh, since that was my first event I went to in '98. So every year we've done, like, it's different.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
now.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know it's not
yeah,
what it was usually,
yeah,
but I'm believing that that'll be back.
yeah.
But there's events, there's the, hey, we could just set up shop. We'll spend our next round of money and we'll set up a studio in our cool DCF facility and we'll just broadcast this thing. But that isn't necessarily what you just described. And I think maybe you could talk about um, the ultimate reward of discipleship, and then why that's not maybe so easy all the time. Like you said something, and of course it's just you and me, right? We're like, yeah, totally. But you're like, we just set up meetings with people, and sometimes they go for a long time. Like I'm guessing that that's not always cool, and like not always the best. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's boring. It's just like
Sure.
talking about like, we have to be intentional with that space. And but sometimes it's, yeah, it takes an energy for me to okay, I want to share my life with them and share
Yeah.
what I'm struggling with or what the Lord's showing me.
Right.
So I got to think, become prepared for that. But it's also messy. That's the bottom line. It's like
Yeah.
people are messy, and
Yeah.
you're getting into their mess with them.
Yeah.
And well, times they're not doing well. Or they've totally messed up and are not being who they are in Christ.
Right.
And they're making poor choices, and it breaks your heart because you are investing your heart into their lives.
Yeah.
Um, I literally before this call, I had to fix the sink at the discipleship house there. They had in the P trap was full of rice that expanded and the sink was clogged and it was
Yeah.
so I'm taking it apart there. But our intern is there. She's serving with us this year. And I'm just like, hey, this is the way discipleship is. It's messy. And she has a student in her small group that just keeps on going out and binge drinking. But she keeps coming to Bible study, but she's
Yeah.
wrestling with addictions.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, you're getting into the mess with people.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I read a book. I can't, my book's right here. I believe it's by Johnny Moore, and it's called Dirty God. And it's just
Mm,
about how God is in the mess with us.
mm,
He's in, I believe that's what it's called. If I mess that up, I'm sorry. But it's just that idea that you were just saying about Jesus camping. I love that. I was just talking with somebody about discipleship, and I was saying, I mean, we get to read about Jesus in the New Testament, but we
mm.
only get to read like the slivers of time. Like the rest of the time, maybe let's just be I'm just going to be like, go out on a limb here and say
Yeah,
90% of the time we don't get to read about what Christ. He's basically hanging out with 12 guys outside.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
amazing. So the creator of the universe, that's what you and I believe, Will,
yes,
spent 3.5 years basically just hanging out with a bunch of dudes. And you kind of said it right. Like once they started following him, they were in the game. Like
yeah,
they didn't go through like a training process. And like you said, hey, go to seminary, that, Preston and Bible college is
yeah.
awesome. But maybe that doesn't have to do with discipleship. When you come into relationship with Christ, you follow him, and then
Hmm.
you start meeting and growing with other Christians, and you do this life. And I think you said it really great too. You're not at DCF like broadcasting Will and Jennifer's plan and agenda, and here's our sermons. Although you do a lot of amazing things, but you said, you're also sharing, which I think
Hmm.
is a big part of discipleship.
Yeah.
And I love that. I just think the discipleship model is not that sexy, but
Yeah.
it's the thing. It's the
Hmm.
thing,
It's the
and
thing, bro. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we need teachers, we need pastors, we need
Yeah.
people who with all their giftings to shine. And I don't have necessarily this amazing teaching ministry, and so I think I'm in the right place with my giftings is to be with people. But I think all of us should do discipleship at some
Yeah.
level.
Right.
I just get to spend my great. Sure, I'm administrating a ministry and helping oversee a staff team and making sure we're all doing what God's called us to do,
Right.
encouraging us in that. Um, but there's such a place for everybody in the body of Christ, and we can all do
For
a little.
sure.
Yeah.
It's true, but I'm pretty sure that every single one of those people is called to make disciples, which I think is so important. It's
Mhm.
like for me as a worship leader for a lot of years, I could do that, and people love worship, and I love to worship, but it's the step after that is to gather some people around you that doesn't have anything necessarily to do with my gifts, and sit down and do life and talk about where we are with Christ. And it's so huge. And I'm just so encouraged
Mhm.
that I was so encouraged when you said DCF is pretty simple. It's just about discipleship. Like, I love that,
Yeah.
because I don't know if you can get the Preston type stories if that wasn't the case. And who
Mm.
knows if you would even be there for this long if it wasn't about discipleship,
Oh,
you know?
it's so true, man. And like you said, we need to see it modeled. We're doing our best. We have a model in what Jesus shows us.
Right.
But the fact that I had that gentleman Henry I mentioned, who
Mhm.
was my mentor in college, and so many other people, and we've yeah, I could name all names that you and I both know that have they poured into my life.
Yeah.
Um, and so we be able to do that for other people, and I think of them and what the sacrifices, the energy they made for me, and that encourages me to keep going for others.
I love
And
that.
yeah, man, it takes a village, like they say, right?
Yeah.
There's so many people I just would love just to thank for all that they've done for us
Yeah.
to be here to serve students at Davis.
I feel the same way about my life too. I'm just so thankful, and you have a wonderful team there. They're so fun. That's what I noticed about DCF when I was there. Everybody was having fun, and I love having fun. So everybody was
Come on.
good to laugh, and what a great environment. Just for those listening, just the night that I was there, there was probably maybe 40 to 50 people spread out like on that grass area, and everybody was just in it, and it was just such a great time, and it was freezing cold, but people were worshiping and just wanted to be there, and I wanted just a couple more things before we get out of here. I think I wanted to ask this question because I used to be a youth pastor, and as the clock of youth group would wind down for families, especially like parents, they would just be so afraid to send, it's the fear when your kid comes home is like, I want to go to UC Davis. Yeah, they're like,
Yeah, no.
no, no, no. Like, and we haven't you looked at the Christian schools? So, how can you encourage maybe some parents who have either college students or future college students, and they're thinking about going to a secular university, and they're believers, and parents are worried, how can they invest before they go, and how can they encourage, and maybe even for college students who's that stereotype of colleges, that's where young people lose their faith,
Mhm.
and I don't think that that's true for everyone, of course, but speak to that a little bit. What can a young person do? How can a parent encourage? And then obviously just send them to UC Davis,
Yeah,
DCF, but
yeah. Obviously, I'm a little biased, right? I'm
yeah,
like,
right.
that's where college is where students can find their faith, right? But
Yeah,
I'm
well,
aware.
speak to that. That's great.
Yeah, no, it is a time where you're gonna thrive, right? If
Yeah,
you if really take ownership of your faith, it's and for me, when I think about it, like looking at our world where we're at,
right.
it's like, yeah, there's so much value again for Christian education. I my kids are going to Christian school right now, and I totally want them to go to secular university. If the Lord calls them there, I really felt a call in my walk with Christ bringing
Mm,
me to Davis, right? Um, yeah. So, but looking at our culture right now, like it's tough either way.
right.
We got to figure out our walk with Jesus and what we believe about the Bible,
Mm,
and college can be a great time, with support parents that are take intentional energy to listen to their kids, to help them process, to be patient with, they might swing on the pendulum a little bit there. Then that might happen wherever they go to school.
right.
Um, but just to trust in the promises of God's word and what parents have invested in their children. I'm praying that for my kids,
Yeah.
and I do my best to be vulnerable with my children too, like to share, like, yeah, even as a missionary, there are things that I still wrestle with God about. I'm like, okay, what is this in
Yeah.
your word, Lord?
Totally.
And but like I trust in the character of God and his goodness, and I believe he's trustworthy.
Mm,
And my life has an amazing track record of his faithfulness. So anyway, so we can model that with our own walk with Christ, with
yeah.
our children, and let them in And then when they hit their rough points, that they can go, oh, I remember my mom or dad mentioned this. And but the fact that a university campus that has a solid campus ministry, they can have a real like a Christian college experience, a Bible college experience. I would say many of our students involved in the DCF and Chi Alpha would attest to that. That
Yeah.
they've had Christian community, that they have had people that would sharpen them. They've had missionaries and mentors that are there, and we can do this. And
Yeah. That's,
the,
that's,
the campus needs it.
that's great. And I think that's such a good perspective. And I wouldn't have thought of that, but you know, college could be a place where a young person really finds their faith, where it becomes theirs, and,
Yes.
they're not underneath mommy and daddy's house anymore. And, and are they going to pray? Are they going to read their Bible? Maybe are they going to find a community that's all on them? And so just to encourage that, but I think even what you said, Will, is important. Say it out loud. Hey, you know what, son or daughter, this is going to be a place where you really find your faith in a new way. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's going to be some hard stuff too, but God's going to be with you and it's going to be an adventure. I love that. And
Yeah, man, I'm all about speaking life. It's like, let's just declare that over our kids. And
yeah, absolutely. I love
yeah,
that.
man. So
Especially too, when we hear everything else, say, I don't know. I think that's actually not true. I think this is going to be the place where it blows up. And it doesn't surprise me at all that your community at DCF would say it's the Christian college experience. You know why? Discipleship. You guys are doing it.
hey.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
last question before I ask how people can stay connected with you.
Hmm.
The thing about Next Explorers that I wanted to do was just ask people who I felt like are out there doing whatever it is they feel like God's called them to do on the front lines, like what they see on the horizon, like what's coming next. So if you could, I'm putting you on the spot there, but what do you see coming next for you and your ministry, your wife and you, but not just that, but what are you believing God for,
Mm-hmm.
for 5 years, 10 years? What do you see coming, whether it be in college students, college campus, or DCF? What do you believe in for?
Yeah, man, that's wonderful. I've really enjoyed what I've seen, with God raising up people that Davis has become a sending place. That we've had students graduate and go to the marketplace, really anchored in their faith. And we've had students go to the mission field, which I'm super excited about. Everywhere's a mission field, that first of all,
Right.
but to go and give a career in missions or a short-term career. And I'd love to see that keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a reset and a restructuring. You're generous in your estimate of how many people were out that night. Maybe with the Zoom call, we were about that, but definitely I see a rebuilding season for us. Like we came through a real peak, like in our ministry with like our attendance. Again, it's not numbers, it's discipleship.
Sure.
But we are church planting every year. We are sending out our graduates, our top leaders, just like in youth ministry, right?
Yeah.
And so we're raising people up. So and not having a traditional, spring, and now not traditional fall and winter. Some of the things that we would normally see happen because of the nature of our relational and time spent side by side, that we're doing things through Zoom. We have some,
yeah, this is different though.
It is different. So I for the next short-term years, I see rebuilding, and God's already stirring up some of our students. I'm talking to them. They're telling me that they want to do our internship, our campus missionary and training.
Awesome.
So after they graduate, so I'm like, thank you, Lord, you're already speaking to hearts, because it takes more laborers, right? To make more disciples.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in a day that I can meet with students, and I get tired too. It's like, okay, we're having the same conversation over and over sometimes, it's like, anyway, won't go there.
Sure.
But God's faithful and with me, and all the same conversations he's having with me.
That's true.
So yeah, where we're going though, like 5-10 years, is such a big question. And I'll be very frank with you. My vision, I get excited about things like the building, the properties, but I'm not the blueprint guy. I'm not like, okay, here's the blueprint where we're going.
Yeah.
and I've always had a great team around me to help build that together. Uh, but I think more the same, but discipleship,
Yeah.
that we need to even go deeper into that, even though it is our main focus. There's times we put way more energy into our worship service and what type of special events we're doing. We do that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but to really go deeper in our core value of discipleship, I'd love to see DCF continue to be that sending place. And we're gonna get these properties paid off. That's gonna be amazing, and that we'll be able to even help missionaries even with the there's gonna be income that will come in with renting our place out. So
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
so many cool things coming down the road for DCF. And Chi Alpha as a whole has just been growing. We believe in for a great awakening. That's what we
Yeah.
keep saying across the country.
Yeah.
And like every great awakening, it's begun with young adults. Uh, and so we're believing that, and that everything that feels like a setback, and you've heard it said, it's just a setup. That God's doing something bigger that we can see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then,
So,
I think I heard John Maxwell say in regards to just the, what you're saying about rebuilding is where this boat took off from is not going to be where it lands. We're going to be someplace else. And, that's a need for revitalization and a new
mhm,
vision. But at the same time too, it's going to be, I think a new hunger for relationships and discipleship in a new way. I really think so, just because of what we've went through these last year and more so just the lack of that. I mean,
mhm.
the Christian faith is the perfect response to that need of discipleship and
Yeah.
come as you are and grow together. So um, to me, I don't know if I'm a blueprint guy either, but DCF definitely has the recipe to continue to move forward, which I think is just awesome. And my wife and I, we were just so impressed, and so motivated, really, and inspired by what you and your wife and your whole team is doing. So, uh, you know, on
Thank
behalf
you,
of
Jordan.
all kinds of
Yeah.
people, I'm sure, just thank you so much
Mm.
for continuing to set the pace, and then not give up. Man, I'm sure you felt like giving up a couple times this last year. It's a hard
Oh
year,
man. Yeah, there's been challenges, but thank
but
you. It's encouraging even just to recount even a second time now some of the
yeah, yeah,
stories that God's done, his faithfulness. It's and getting to know you better, Jordan. And I'm excited for what you're going to be doing in France,
yeah,
doing discipleship in the university setting as well. I'm just
for
thrilled.
sure. I'll be calling you. I'll be calling
Yeah.
you every day, right about 1 a.m. All
Oh
right.
boy.
Lastly, if somebody wants to get involved with what you're doing, they want to reach out, they want to support you, can you just fire off the ways to stay connected?
Okay, sure. So our website is dcfdavis.org. So that's DCF for Davis Christian Fellowship, Davis, it's redundant, dcfdavis.org.
Mhm.
And you can find links to more about the ministry. If you're interested in supporting the house project, we just to drop some numbers, it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
Camp Davis is like Bay Area real estate. The building was $920,000, and
Wow.
in almost going on 5 years, we've seen just the generosity of folks, and we have about 375,000 left to raise. So we've made significant headway,
Wow.
and we're believing for that to be paid off, and maybe even this 30th year, we already got a matching grant for 2021 of a $50,000 matching grant. So yeah, so if
Cool.
you want to be a part of that, you can do that. If you want to support a missionary, all of our links are there too at dcfdavis.org.
Cool.
And we do Instagram, we do all that fun stuff, obviously, with students. So, and that's just DCF Davis. You can find us on Instagram. Facebook is over there too. So, or
Sweet.
me too, personally, Will Klier, Klier. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put that all in the notes too if you're listening, and you should go check them out, and then hit them up too, because when things open up, Will took me to a really good sushi spot. That was some good stuff. And
There you go.
Will, and of course your wife Jennifer, thanks so much for what you're doing, and thank you so much for being on Explorers. Love it, and look forward to being with you soon. Lead some worship. It'll be
Yes,
great.
sir. We're gonna
Okay.
have fun. Thank you, Jordan.
God
Appreciate your
bless you.
time, man.